Hi there, YouTube community. This is Barcode9588 checking in again. This is just a viewer question. I'm really sorry this video is going to be sort of unpolished. I'm just about to actually run off to work. But I was reading through my messages this morning and I received a message from a particular YouTube user. He had a very specific question that I've actually been asked a few times. Actually more than a few times, I think, just through private messaging. And I thought that maybe, I think it's a topic that would be relevant to a lot of people, certainly, and maybe I should take the time to address it now. So just to respect just to respect confidentiality, I guess. I mean, I do work at a crisis center, so I do understand how important that is to particular people. For the rest of this, and for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to call him John, okay? So John sent a message to me. It was quite long and very well written, actually, I should say. And John said, I have bipolar disorder. And for those of you who don't know, bipolar disorder, also known as a manic depression, is a condition where an individual goes through many affective highs and many affective lows. So this individual would have extreme highs called manias and extreme lows called depressions. So John says, I have bipolar disorder, and I've noticed that I score as an ENTP during mania, so during the highs, and as an INFP during the depressive phases. Okay, and so I think, just from reading your post, John, I get the feeling that you're a very reflective, sort of self-aware individual. I also sort of get, it sounds like you're feeling maybe a bit frustrated, and certainly that's very, very understandable and very common. So I think that what you may be asking me is, well, how should we factor mental illness or mental pathology into sort of the Myers-Briggs personality type inventory? I will say this, first off the bat, that there are not that many resources available, unfortunately. I'm not sure why. I mean, again, I do work at a crisis center, so this topic is one that I give a lot of thought personally as well. And no, there aren't actually that many resources out there. That sort of leads to the question, well, does your Myers-Briggs type affect your mental illness, or does your mental illness affect your Myers-Briggs type? And this is another one of those really sort of heavily loaded questions in personality or developmental psychology, right? So what I mean by does your Myers-Briggs type affect your illness? So those would be like, do certain traits that certain individuals have make them more or less susceptible to certain types of mental illness, or does it make them more or less susceptible to different manifestations of that mental illness? Or does your illness affect your Myers-Briggs type? So, I mean, if you're this type and then you experience mental illness, does it change your Myers-Briggs type, right? So, probably the one thing that comes to mind immediately in regards to that is, and again, since John, you're bipolar, so manic depression, and since depression does affect almost a third of Canadians, I guess North Americans in general, I think it's a fairly good example. So think about that for a second. One of the things that would be fairly common as a manifestation of this would be, say, introversion versus extroversion, right? So those would be your, again, as I mentioned in previous videos, your orientation functions, right? So I mean, let's say this person was originally, let's say this person was originally an extrovert. If he suddenly experiences, major depressive disorder, which one of the symptoms in regards to that is social isolation and social withdrawal, would that make him an introvert? Another thing is that clinical depression causes sudden and quite intense interpersonal sensitivity. So that's a heightened sensitivity to criticism and to rejection from your peer group and your interpersonal social circle. So that could, for example, possibly change a person from, say, a thinker to a feeler, right? And keep in mind that when I use the word change, now what do I mean by change? This is again a really sort of loaded word. Well, think about it this way. How do you measure change? And can your Myers-Briggs type change? This has been, I think it was Quajaboy, another YouTube user. I've answered this actually another question. It was a viewer question. He asked, can your personality type change? I'll tell you right now that as far as the research goes, the leading theory, the answer is no. Past about maybe the critical age is usually put at about mid-adolescence. So you're about your mid-teens, maybe 15 years old. No, the majority of your personality by that time is quite cement, and you would not change. Um, but again, how do we measure change? In terms of the Myers-Briggs, keeping in mind that I'm talking about in terms of the Myers-Briggs, how do we measure change? Well, that would be through tests, right? So taking the Myers-Briggs again and again and again. So through tests, right? But one thing to really remember and be careful about measuring change by taking the Myers-Briggs again is that the Myers-Briggs does not measure the intensity of certain traits in you. It measures rather the intensity of your self-awareness of those traits and your self-awareness of the manifestations of these traits, right? So I guess in that regard, the sort of wild card variable of mental illness may cause a perception of change, right? So I guess, I mean, I don't want to make this too long, but this video is less about research, I think, and more just about evaluating yourself. I think, John, is maybe one thing you and I both have to consider. I think for the first time, I have to say that the research stops here. I'm sorry, the research does stop here. I can't say, and for probably two big major reasons, right? The first reason would probably be that well, John, you're you and I'm me, and nobody on this earth in this entire comprehensible universe knows you better than you, except God, if you're religious, if you're into that. But you know what I mean. You're you. I don't know what events have occurred in your life. I don't know how your mental schema is. I don't know how you respond to stressors. I don't know what kind of a person you are. I don't know I don't know the manifestations of the impact mental illness has had on your life. I don't know if it has had a great impact or it has had a little impact. I think I have to put the burden, the burden of self-discovery back onto your shoulders, because I think that's where it belongs. The second reason why I have to say that the reason is that the research stops here in regards to the effect of mental pathology on your Myers-Briggs personality type is that, well, the majority of origins of mental pathology in general is quite to this day not certain, I should say. I mean, many leading theories. Again, the majority of research nowadays is just theories, right? Origins of mental illness still are largely unknown. Some of them are quite certain now. For example, some of the more psychotic disorders have been found to be, linked to organic causes and many genetic factors. Some others, such as more commonly in your case, manic depression. Yes, some genetics, maybe some nurture, maybe some nature. We don't know. The honest answer is that we don't know. So again, I think I have to place the burden of proof back onto you. And the reason I say that is because research aside, and this is for all my viewers, research aside, I think what you have to remember and what you have to reclaim is this element of self-realization, right? You should be what you want to be, I think, John. Be what you want to be. Is that, and I need to ask you, is that something that you could see yourself doing? Ultimately, you have to remember, not only for you, John, and for all my viewers who are quite fairly, religiously following this series, is that the Myers-Briggs is ultimately a measurement of what you are. It does not determine what you are. Some users have touched upon this, right? It's this element of self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, so that's why I have to sort of raise this crucial warning at this point. Be what you are, okay? It's all about self-realization. This is your life, and you should do what you want with it. The Myers-Briggs measures, again, what you are. It does not determine what you are unless you let it. And probably that's sort of, I guess, the take-home message I would give to you, John. Does it matter? I mean, does it matter whether you're an ENTP or an INFP? Does it really matter? How much does it matter in regards to you living out your daily life? You committing yourself to being a good man. How much does that change? So yeah, I mean, again, I have to say the research stops here, and I'm sorry I couldn't give you a more solid answer, but I guess, yeah, I don't have much more to say to you, John. I hope you find the answers that you're looking for. Thank you.